Welcome back for episode 9. So in this episode, we're going to be testing out VCM Performance boosted range of camshafts. So although we're not testing them with a blower, I'm testing them in aspirated form. And the reason for that is that I just don't have a blower car at my disposal to be able to rip cams in and out of. And two, I want to be able to show people that with the blower cams, you can still, technically not really called blower cams. It's been proven time and time again that, every cam is a blower cam, but there are certain things in a camshaft that do help when it comes to the blower department. So, and these four, well, I think it's 4 cams. Yep, it's 4 cams. So, this is what VCM recommends. So they've got a nice little cheat sheet on their website, which basically, recommends a cathedral head, rectangle head, and so on. And these camshafts are recommended as a blower camshaft. And look, they work well. They are a great camshaft. Working in different ways, I guess you would say. So let's have a look at the sheet. Let's run through it all, show you the pros and the cons between each. And if you're trying to make your mind up between a VCM 5SC, VCM 714, or the VCM 883, or the VCM 16, then I hope this video is going to help you out. But let's get to it, let's dissect it down, and let's make some sense out of all of this. So, as you can see, our baseline again is that 295 kilowatts, 536 Newton meters of torque. Moving on to the VCM 5SC. So this is their little camshaft. You can run this with a standard converter and so on. So VCM 5SC, 224, should say 232, sorry, not 2232, so 232. On a 114.5, 580, 590 lift, that made 358 kilowatts, 575 Newton meters of torque. VCM 714 is a bigger version, so 232, 234 on a 114. We've got 600 there on the lift, but 361 kilowatts, 581 Newton meters of torque, which is nice. And your VCM 883, 228, 238, 113, same again, not 600 there lift, 368 kilowatts, 575 Newton meters, and then you move on to the old proven VCM 16, which is a 233, 238, 114, 598 lift, and 372 kilowatts, 580 Newton meters of torque. So I've personally used the VCM 16 in a blower combination, and it worked really well. I've used it in a turbo combination. It worked really well. I've just recently used the 883 with a Harrop 2650 blower, and that worked really well. That made like 550 plus kilowatts at the wheels. Really nice really nice camshaft, worked well, and it sounds great. I haven't used the 714 in a blower application yet, but I have used the VCM 5SC in my own personal car a very long time ago. It was turbocharged, and look, it worked really well too. I probably had my best 60-foot time with that particular camshaft back in the day. So, but that was probably like, well, it was over 10 years ago, easy. So, but looking at the dyno graph, so as you can see, there's not a lot in it. So, but let's zoom in a bit more and make some sense. So, the big thing is between all of these camshafts, they are very different mannered from 5200 onwards in the top. The VCM 5SC obviously makes a little less power in the top end, where the VCM, the 714 makes a little bit more. The 883 starts to make a little bit more, but then the VCM 16 just top ends it at the very end. So, but they all come at a cost at the bottom, so they are different. So the VCM 16, although it makes a lot more in the top, you do compromise in the bottom. And then the same with the 883, you compromise again, whereas the 714 and the 5SC, you don't compromise as much torque and power off the bottom, so under that 3600 RPM. Now, if you're using these in an automatic, this is where having a good converter in a blower car will help with the losses that you see in the bottom end with these particular camshafts. So getting that torque multiplication and getting the converter up to speed will overcome those losses in the bottom, so you won't necessarily notice them. However, if you've got a manual transmission, you're not going to notice it anyway, because you're going to be pulling gears and you're not going to be like trying to chug around at 2800 revs. So depending on driving style, it really does depend on what you are going to get, like what result and the outcome is going to be. Now, as a blower, I'm actually quite happy with the 16. I think as a blower application, the 16 will work well, because even though we've made some losses in the bottom, and like the 16 does make a bit of a compromise all the way up to around sort of that 5,000 revs before it switches over, if you've got some boost on the bottom of that curve, well, it's going to lift the power up in the bottom. So you're probably not going to notice that loss in the bottom. But if you're looking for something that you want to be able to throw in now, 2-3 years time from now, or a year's time, whatever it is it takes to save up some money, you want to go to a blower later, but you want to have as much power as you can make now without sacrificing too much in the bottom, then the 883 is a really nice cam. It sounds really nice in the tailpipe. It tunes up relatively easy. It's got a good chop, as I said, but it works really well with the blower. And we found we were able to put a significant amount of ignition timing with around, I think it was around 10 or 11 pound of boost, and it just worked really well. So I was quite happy with that camshaft. Whereas the 5SC, that's a really good camshaft. It works well in an LS1 with a blower, and it works really good in like your 6-litre 6.2s with the blower as well. So depends on what you want. So the 5SC is obviously better mannered in the bottom end. The 714 is actually quite mannered as well. Like, it's actually quite a nice cam in the sense of how it sounds and performs, but you are sort of splitting sort of hairs. Like this, the 7 and the 5SC, they're very similar. You know, if you look at the two lines, the pink and the blue, all the way in the bottom, they're very similar. 5,400 revs. Once you get up here, you can just sort of see the differences between them, you know. So, you know, two very different camshafts. If you're going to go off overall sound and all that sort of stuff, I think the 714 definitely sounds better. But the 5SC has better engine vacuum, so it is always going to be better on your brakes. So your brake booster is going to actually behave a hell of a lot better with the 5SC. Not saying that the 714 doesn't have much. I think they had around 63 or 64 kPa. But the 5SC, I think, was around the 57. So a much better mannered camshaft in that department. But if you've got a converter or it's a manual, it's really not an issue. So, but, you know, if you asked me which of these camshafts would you put in there if it was a 6-litre and you're going to put a blower on, look, I'm going to say the 883 for me is the standout camshaft out of these four. I honestly think the 883 ticks all the boxes, and I think as far as average power, minimal loss in the bottom, etc., I think the 883 is probably the cam of choice. But if you're building an absolute power monster and you only want to make power and you don't care about anything in the bottom, then the VCM 16 is the camshaft to go with. It's going to make more power in the top end than any of the other cams, you know. So, but look, at the end of the day, all three cams are great cams. Application is what it always comes down to, what you're looking for, and as I've explained in the video, now you've got sound, you've got drivability, you've got all those factors to take into consideration. But the 883, I speak from experience with this one, in a VF with a automatic transmission with the converter, we use the Circle D converter. You know, we didn't use a Circle D converter, we used another one, sorry. But yeah, the 883 in a VF with the blower 2650, it was really nice to drive. I was actually quite impressed how that worked on the street. It was a nice camshaft. So obviously 883 for me is the pick of the bunch. But you know, as I said before, more power, 16, drivability and comfort, the 7 and the 5 is probably where you want to be. So, but once again, thanks to the team at VCM for supplying us with these camshafts. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're sitting on the fence, you're not sure what cam to get, reach out to us, drop it in the comments, send us a message. I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction. We've pretty much tested out just about every single camshaft you can think of, so I've got a good database up there in my head. And I can pretty much sort of dissect everything down pretty quickly for you. So, but at the end of the day, you got to tell me what you're doing with the car, how you're going to use it, how you're going to drive it, who's going to drive it. There's so many variables that you need to consider when making a camshaft selection, because every time you put a camshaft in the car, you are sacrificing something somewhere in the power curve. So what are you prepared to sacrifice? That determines what you're going to get. So, but anyway, guys, thanks again. Don't forget to subscribe. And like always, we'll see you on the next one. Catch you later. Bye.